And guess what? We get to look at this thing called finances. It's not even tax time. Isn't that wonderful? Financial challenges and money issues. Isn't that great? I think it's great because it's time we looked at it and handled it. Yes. And so here we are thinking about, yes, abundance, prosperity, fullness, plenty, and all of that jazz. Yes. And we're knowing that that's what's supposed to be in our life and in our experience, and not lack and not limitation and not shortage or scarcity of any kind. And that's why we have our spiritual principles to help us to figure this one out. So I shared this morning that, believe it or not, very few of us understand finances. Very few of us have our money stuff sorted out. People come to me for marriage counsel 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they're getting married. And one of the subjects I go over with them, I go over 4 very important things, and one of them is money. And they've never discussed money with each other. And they don't even know what their money situations are like individually. But by the time they leave my office, they do. They do. They understand money. And so we're here to have an understanding of this amazing energy called money that is in circulation all the time. We use it all the time. You use money, I use money. Money comes into our lives, money goes out from our lives, and that's the way of it. So we have to ask ourselves, what does money mean to me? Now, there are all kinds of definitions of money, but they don't matter. What matters is your definition of money and what you associate money with, and how you perceive it, and how you see it, and how you feel about it. Oh, money means nothing to me, it doesn't really matter. Well, that's the greatest load of baloney I've ever heard. You know? Because it's just not true. Why is it not true? Apart from statistics and studies that have been done, one in the University of Michigan that showed 3 very important facts about money. Number 1 was that money is the one thing that most people worry about. Money is the one thing that most people say makes them happy. Money is the one thing that most people say makes them unhappy. So can you see how money preoccupies us? Most of us anyway. And you would say, oh no, not me, because I have it together. I sorted out my money issues. I'm okay with that. I understand how it all goes. And that's another load of baloney. All of us have money issues. All of us have money issues. And sooner or later, we have to come to terms with those issues and figure them out for ourselves. One end of the scale, there are those of us who can't get enough of it. Our whole life's purpose is to accumulate more and more and more and more and more. We all want money, 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 and so on. Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world. And some of us are besotted with that idea. And not only do we want more and more and more, we don't even know why anymore. We want more, we just want more. If there's more out there and I can have more, I want it. And what's more, I'm going to keep it. Keep it, you never know. Just never know. And then there's the other end of that scale. Money comes to me, indeed it does, but I can't keep a penny. Don't seem to be able to keep a penny. If it was to save my life, I couldn't keep a penny. And then there's all the various shades in between of those 2 spectrums. Those 2 poles. And you and I are in there somewhere. So today's the day when we're going to look at that, and then for the rest of the week we're going to be figuring out how we are with money and what relationship we have with money and what we associate money with and how we feel about money and what it's all about, Alfie, anyway. Yes. So, definitions of money, you know, I mean, money is a medium of exchange. It is a symbol of exchange. Money is an enabling symbol. It enables me to acquire the things in life that I need in order to live, in order to flourish, in order to thrive. Money stands for more than its face value. It certainly does. And because of that, it is based on a whole lot of trust. I have to trust that when the bank gives me these little pieces of paper, when I go out to buy something, it's going to be honored, and I can do that. So it's based on a whole lot of trust. The fiscal system is based on trust. And there was a time when money was used, and it was used as something different to that Unfortunately and sadly, money at one time was slave trade. Money at one time was shells. Money at one time was pigs. Money at one time was all kinds of everything. And now it is this paper and coinage that we use, and plastic, that we use in order to exchange goods and services. So as I see it, but before I see it, I built what I see of money on the definition of Raymond Barker's when he said that money is God in action. Money is good in action, which is God, good, and so on. Money is good in action. I see it as an outward symbol of inward source, of an inward source, an outward symbol of an inward source. And you and I will never understand money until we understand that it has to do with an aspect of divine opulence that's given to us and provided for us, and that our one source is not the government, is not my job, or anything else out there. My one source is the one power, the one intelligence, the one infinite life that brought me into being. That's my source. It's an endless supply. It never stops giving to me when I show up in availability to receive what is given. And so that's my source. And so I love our money here. I love our money for what it stands for here. Because if I take a dollar bill and I look at that dollar bill, it means little in and of itself. And God knows if I only have $1 bills in my purse, I can have a sense of lack, I can have a sense of limitation. But if I turn the bill over to the green back, I read, in God I trust, we trust. Then I've gone immediately from lack and limitation to fullness and plenty and opulence. One little turn of a bill can do that for me. It's a metaphysical lesson in and of itself, that dollar bill. That's the beauty of the money that we share here. Same thing on a coin. Every time I see a coin, I pick it up. I don't care whether I'm in an elevator and there's a penny there. I will bend down, I'll pick it up, and I say, oh, look, in God we trust. And I put that penny in a special little jar, a special little box, and it reminds me that I had a visitation today, a direct visitation from my source, nudging me and saying, remember, in me you trust. And then all of that accumulates, all of those coins accumulate with the message, trust your source, trust your source. Your source is where your supply comes from. Trust that, and not just all the various and sundry schemes of things out there. That's my supply, my source. Why do I look up when I say that's my supply? And I'm not looking up to heaven. I'm looking up into a higher conscious awareness of how life is. Now, I have to understand the law of circulation before I can understand the law of money. The law of circulation says what I put out there, I get back. What I give comes back to me. If I want to receive, I must give. That's the law of circulation. How does it work with regard to money? And this is what I would love us all to be able to teach children from the time they're this high, because they're very interested in money. Have you noticed that? They're interested in your money and getting it from you. And so the idea is, with regard to money, the money I have, I take, I look at it, I give thanks for it, I bless it, and then I spend most of it, really. I have to live. Then I give some of it away, because that is a wonderful thing to do. That's a blessing that goes out for me. And then I save some, not for a rainy day. Oh no, save for celebratory days, wonderful good things. That's what you save for, not for a rainy day. Because if you're saving for a rainy day, you'll get them. You'll get them. Oh, they'll go up for you. And so that is the law of circulation with regard to money. Now, if I go out along the pathway and I see a dirty piece of paper in the gutter and it's dirty and so on, but if I see 100 on 4 corners and a government official stamp slapped on it, guess what? I'm going to bend down and pick that up, no matter how dirty it is. Or somebody else will too. And they will pocket and go off feeling, how blessed I am today, fortune has shone upon me. The universe gave me $100, dirty though it be. You see, It all has to do with perception, a perception that I have about something that makes me feel good about it or not so good about it. When it comes to money, you and I must have the right attitude around money. If I think of money as filthy lucre, if I belittle money, if I am irreverenced in the presence of money, then I'm always going to have problems around money because I have a negative perspective with regard to money. And so if I have a negative perspective, I am going to have a negative experience with money. Money, quite the contrary, is far from filthy lucre, and indeed is far from the root of all evil, as sometimes we hear in spiritual places. Money is the root of all evil. There's even a song called Money is the Root of All Evil, but that's a misquote of the scripture. The scripture really says the love of money is the root of it's the root of evil. And so, of course, a devotion to money and an obsession with money and a love only of money can create all kinds of havoc in our lives and in the lives of others. But that's not what money is for. As my mother used to say, money is made round to go round. I don't know how long that will last, though. But it comes in and it goes out, it comes in and goes out, just like your breath comes in and goes out, just like, good comes in and goes out. You're given good in your life, and then you share it. It's all about sharing. You have to understand that. You have to learn to share, and some of us don't want to share, really. And you see that in small children, some of them. Very slow to share their toys, or very slow to share whatever, for whatever reason. Well, we say that without judgment. They have to learn how to share some of them. Some of them come in and they give everything away. It's just a different sense of sensibility. And so we learn from our children. But we teach our children the processes of life and how life works best for us. And it all has to do with circulation. Circulation, movement, and keep the movement going. Keep the movement going. It goes out like the tide and it comes back like the tide. It goes out and it comes back. It goes out and it comes back. So if I am uptight about money, I need to start looking at that and find out how to stop being uptight about money. I have to have a wonderful understanding that money is simply energy. It's energy in action. And it can be the root of all blessing, not the root of evil. It can be the root of all blessing. If it's used wisely and if it's used well, there is no shortage of money in the world. There's tons and tons and tons of money in the world. There is no shortage. And if you and I understand that our source is a bottomless pit, our source never runs dry, our source always is the opulence of the universe, and we can draw from that anytime we show up in understanding to realize that my good is there for me and I'm supposed to have it. And if it's in the form of money, then it's in the form of money, and I can have that. Poverty is no great delight to spirit, not at all, no more than sickness is, no more than any ailment is. Spirit does not delight in poverty. Not at all. And yet, although you hear money is the root of all evil in spiritual places, yet those spiritual places could not exist without it, and indeed invite it in. It's an amazing thing. As I was sharing this morning, money is essential on this plane if we are to move through it and realize our purpose. It took gobs and gobs and gobs of money to keep Gandhi in his poverty, and Mother Teresa too. Millions and bazillions to keep them at the level of their poverty. And it took lots and lots of money to keep people like Albert Schweitzer doing the great work he did in Africa. Our money is circulating in Malawi, helping to educate children by building schools and bring a whole new sense and prosperity to a village as a result of that, because we don't only educate the children, we're educating the parents at night too. And we insist on that so that the children have a chance of really getting through their education. And so we have to understand that money is a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual energy. And for some, it's sacrilege to bring money, the subject, up in a spiritual place and to give it any spiritual significance. Well, my goodness me, after all, money is the root of all evil. But it's not, is it? Not at all. This is one of the best places to look at this thing called money, this thing called energy, this thing that can promote life, empower life, free life to be the best that it can be. A long time ago, Aristotle said himself, it was his opinion, that you had to have a certain level of comfort in life in order to spiritually advance. Otherwise, you're just thinking about all your lack and limitation and your needs and what you haven't got, you know. When once upon a time, a long time ago, when I was heading out to be another Mother Teresa out to India or Pakistan, you know, the first thing that we did in the missions was to feed people, clothe people, before we even mentioned anything about a higher being. We fed them, we clothed them, we gave them a sustainable life, and then we talked spiritual matters. Because otherwise, your focus is on your empty stomach. Your focus is on the lack of a roof over your head. Your focus is on your neediness. And so we take care of that, and then we move to the next thing. It's an ascending thing. It's an ascending thing like this, to come back to that. And so, you know, we can take this in and say, isn't that interesting? And that's very, yeah, that makes sense, and then go off and forget about it. But if we're going to handle ourselves and our money issues, we better not forget about it. What we're here this week to know is, how am I with money? And when I think about giving it away, do I go, ooh, and hug it all the more tightly? Or when I get it, can I not wait to spend it on something or another, mindlessly? And as I say, whatever is in between. It's like I'm reminded of the man who, you know, who made a failure of everything in his life, so it seems. He failed at his marriage, he failed at his business, he failed in everything, and he was down to his last $1 bill. And he decided in a deep state of depression he was going to kill himself, commit suicide. Well, he failed at that too, fortunately. But he failed at that too. And what really took him up out of that deep depression was he turned the back of the bill over. And he got it, in God we trust. His last $1, in God we trust. And then he realized, you know, I've been trusting in all the wrong things. I've been looking for what I'm looking for out there. I thought getting money would do it for me and bring all those things to me that I so thought I wanted. But I realize now that I can put my focus, he had a change of heart and a change of mind, I can put my focus on something other than what's out there. In God we trust, and he studied that. And he was able to be elevated up out of his depression and get it. And then, lo and behold, in time, a short space of time indeed, he got a brilliant idea. And the brilliant idea made him a ton of money. He could have been an extremely wealthy man, but he gave most of it away. And when he was asked why he did that, he said, why not? He said, I was miserable. Before I failed. Now I'm prosperous and I'm happy. Why would I go back to that? You know, he realized that it was all about a flow and an energy and a feeling around this thing called money. And his biggest breakthrough was the realization, money is not wealth. Ideas is wealth. It's not money that's wealth, it's the ideas that produces it that is wealth. And so you and I need to be changing up our ideas all the time, be open to our creative expression. Edwina Gaines, who is a guru of prosperity and takes over from Catherine Ponder in that way, says that if you want to be prosperous and successful in life, and remember that prosperity has to do with all aspects of your life, not just money, there are 4 principles that we need to follow. And she lays them out very firmly, and she's very up in your face about it. And of course, 3 of the principles we'll all enjoy and appreciate and accept and love and endeavor to practice. But the first one is going to make us swallow a big hard frog because we don't want to hear or think about it. And the first principle is tithing. Oh, I said the T word, tithing. What is tithing? It's to release 10% of your not only your money, but your talent and your time to that point on the planet that feeds you spiritually, that nourishes you spiritually. That will be your spiritual community. Yeah, like I'm going to give 10% of my income to any spiritual community. I don't care how good it is. That's what goes through most people's minds, whether consciously or unconsciously. And yet, it's a principle that works over and over and over and over again. And you know what I say to tithing? It's baloney. Tithing is only the beginner's wheels, the learning wheels. I want to get to the point when I'm giving 90% of what's my income to this beautiful establishment here. Can you imagine what the 10% would be like? I don't know how that money's going to come in. I don't have to know how it's going to come in. That's Spirit's job. All I know is it's that I have been given a great deal, and what I've been given it to give away, to share, to put back out there, to put back into circulation for good purposes, to do good, to help and enliven and support life. That's what I know. And then, of course, Catherine Ponder being asked once, should I give from my gross or my net? And she just said, well, it depends. Do you want to receive blessing from gross or net from Spirit? It's up to you. It's up to you. Now, here we don't talk very much at all about tithing, because it scares, not just because it scares people, it's because, you have your own personal relationship with money and how you want to use it and give it and so on, and that has to come to you. I can't tell you to tithe and everything will be okay. You could tithe and it mightn't be, because you might be giving grudgingly, or out of a sense of obligation, or out of a sense of magic. If I do this, it'll work. No. You have to give it because you want to do it and you know this is good. And I would never, ever suggest anything to you that I am not doing myself. I would not. I can only tell you it works for me. It just works for me. It always has. And I started tithing when I didn't have 2 pennies more or less to scratch up against each other. There wasn't much left over at the end of the day, because I was teaching Catholic high school, didn't pay very much money at all. And that's when I started, but I said, what the hey, I can do it for once. I can always borrow if I go short. I know that I'm good for a loan over there. But guess what happened? Nothing. Everything was just the way it was. I thought, oh, I could do it for another month, and I did. And so on it went for 6 months, and then guess what? The 90% was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was able to do more and more and more. But that's just my story. I don't know what yours is. That's mine. And there's nobody saying this is what you have to do. That's the number one. The number two is forgive, 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 forgive. Every time forgive. In every situation, forgive. In every circumstance, forgive. Always and never, forgive. It's not an option. Forgiveness is what it's about. The third one is get very clear. Get very clear about what it is that you want to achieve and accomplish here. Very, very clear. Ask and you shall receive, it says. Ask for the guidance. Ask for the clearance with regard to what that is. Remember, the scripture says, ask, ask. It doesn't say, keep us guessing. Maybe we'll figure it out, but ask, make it clear what it is you want. And then the fourth one is discover and seek and seek and seek and seek until you discover what your purpose in life is, what your purpose in life is, because it's the only thing that's going to make you happy. The fulfillment of that purpose is the only thing that's going to make you happy. So it's given to you and it's given to me this day, this week, to look at this thing called money, to look at this thing called wealth, to look at this thing called prosperity and understand it's just opulence, it's fullness, it's plenty. It's the promise fulfilled of I have come that you may have life and have it in abundance, and I have come that your joy may be complete, because that's what your experience is going to be. Edwina again says, you're not going to do that until you follow those 4 principles. And she says, if you don't follow the 4 principles, your life is just going to be a mess. Your life will be a mess. And look where your thinking has brought you to the mess you're in. So if you want to get out of the mess you're in, you need to bring new creative thought into your life and be open to a new and creative idea. An idea that's going to cause you to flourish and to thrive. For that to happen, you have to get off your spiritual couch, get out there and engage with your life, your living, and your purpose. Be on purpose. You have to show up for your purpose. You have to decide deliberately, intentionally, I am going to make the contribution that I came here to make, which is your purpose. to make the contribution that you came here to make. And by Jiminy Crickets, I'm going to do it, not by myself, but by the power and the presence and the grace and the strength within me that gives me the oomph and the inspiration and the guidance to do that. And I will trust my source. And I will look at my money when I'm spending my money, when I receive money, and I will see the greenback, and I will say, yes, indeed, in God I trust. This is a blessed energy, a blessed thing. It comes into me, it flows out from me as a grace, as a blessing, to uplift life, to expand life, to forward life, and in so doing, do all of that through me, for me, and as me. That's the way it works. All of it is just life living itself as the divine, however it is living itself and showing up. But you get to choose. Where do you want to play in the game of life? Do you want to play with the great ones? Do you want to play at the level of a Jesus, the Christed one? Do you want to play at the level of a Buddha? Because you can. Everybody can be a revealer of the truth. You can play at that level, or you can sit on the bleachers and watch all of them out there doing it and saying, isn't that nice? You can choose however you wish to show up and at whatever level you wish to show up at. The choice is yours and yours alone, and we honor and respect you wherever you are in the process of all of this, because no matter where you are, what you're doing, what you're up to, you are the beautiful, radiant, magnificent life of spirit, always endeavoring to express more of itself by means of you. You are graced, you are blessed, you are given to, you are worthy, you are entitled. If it's going to be, it's up to you. You get to decide. What's your decision going to be this week is very exciting, my goodness me. But are you ready for an increase? Yes. Are you ready for more? Yes. Are you ready to stop settling for less? Yes. Are you ready to do what it takes to have the more? Yes. Are you ready to be what it takes to have the more? Yes. And what are you ready? Yes. And so it is.